People who have cancer, what signs let you know that you were sick? 1. I was diagnosed with a stage 3 occult breast cancer. I had a new kitten who obsessively licked at my armpit. A few days later, I felt a fullness feeling in the same armpit, so I went feeling around and found the lump that led to my diagnosis. I had no other symptoms, was too young for routine mammograms, which wouldn't have helped anyway because it was occult breast cancer, so nothing showed up on breast imaging, and the cancer was very aggressive. I would have been dead in 6 months if it weren't. 2. I had some odd blood test results that weren't quite right that my doctors checked a little more closely. There were some minor aches and pains that I thought were something else that I had in the past. I still haven't really had many symptoms. The plus side is that it was caught very early. The doctor told me, "This is not going to be the reason you die," which is an oddly comforting yet ominous way to deliver a cancer diagnosis. 3. Extreme fatigue, the kind that made me take 2-hour naps each day after work and wasn't resolved with 9+ hours of sleep daily. 4. My mom had severe stomach pain. She got her stomach checked out. Nothing. They checked her pancreas. Stage 4. 3 months later, she was gone. She didn't even make it to her second chemo. Guys, please get your cancer checks. 5. My mom had breast cancer and she had no symptoms. It was caught on a routine mammogram. Thankfully, she had surgery to remove it and went through a year of chemo and radiation therapy and is now cancer-free. 6. My friend had headaches that would keep her bedridden for days at a time. Turned out to be a glioblastoma in her brain that had spread to her spine. 7. My GP noted protein in my blood. A bone marrow biopsy revealed a high percentage of cancer cells. My oncologist says the disease has responded well to treatment, as shown by lab reports. Otherwise, I have not actually seen the disease. 8. My lymph nodes started to swell, then my neck started to swell and I started to have reflux and coughing fits at night. I went to the doctor and he told me I was tense and needed a massage. A month later, I was admitted to the hospital with blood clots in my lungs, fluid around my heart, and a stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma diagnosis. I'll have been in remission for 3 years this fall. If something feels off, advocate for yourself. 9. Family history of female reproductive system cancers on both sides of the family. Was told I was too young to worry, mid-20s, but pressured them to check. Sure enough, cells that were just turning cancerous. Several surgeries later and I've been clear 12 years. 10. I started having what I thought were perimenopause symptoms. I was 45, so I figured it was about time. A few months later, my giant puppy jumped on my stomach. It started to swell up the next day. It progressively got worse over a few days and became really painful. I went to the ER and was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. 11. My aunt was bleeding heavier than normal. 8 months of being told at menopause nothing to worry about. In and out of hospital knowing something was seriously wrong. After 8 months, she was finally diagnosed with stage 4 cervical cancer. 12. Took a knee to the side working with a disabled client. Caused a ton of pain for me to go in and have it checked out. They did an X-ray and CT scan and said we're bringing in a doctor to go over these results. 10 minutes later, you have testicular cancer, several chemo treatments, and an orchiectomy later. I'm cancer-free 11 years. 13. Constant dry cough that didn't go away for months. Night sweats. Feeling like I had the worst allergies ever, but it was the middle of winter. Then ever-increasing difficulty breathing. It was like trying to breathe through a wet sponge. It was a malignant neuroendocrine tumor in a lung. ETA. It is believed to have been doing a massive histamine dump. Normally, these do not cause symptoms. 14. My best friend had no symptoms at all. She was 23 and grocery shopping one day and had a seizure that brought her to the ER. Scans revealed a brain tumor that had been there for a decade. It had been slowly growing and one day it pushed against something in her brain, causing the seizure. It has been a very long road to recovery over the last 7 years. 15. My grandfather went to get up out of a chair and his lower arm just snapped. Bone cancer. He had some rare aggressive form and died 9 days later in agony. Bones started breaking with every movement. At the very end, his ribs would break just by breathing. Finally, they were just collapsing under the weight of his body. The local doctors only knew of one other case like this, and it was my grandfather's brother-in-law who grew up in the same neighborhood in another city. 16. My mom couldn't lose weight and she was bloated. She ate very healthy and walked, so it was odd. She had to cough a lot, burp, etc. Turns out to be ovarian cancer, and she maybe lived 2 years, which doctors thought about it. She was the age for it as well. Not enough is known, as many women experience these symptoms without it being anything deadly. 17. My mom had severe pain shortly after an injury. She felt a lump, but for months doctors told her it was just a muscle knot. Eventually ended up in the ER and put on morphine from the pain. She was told for a while to take Tylenol, and it turned out to be stage 4 melanoma. She had been in remission for 5 years before that. She did insist on a scan just to check, against her doctor's advice, but it was booked 6 months out, by which point she would probably have been dead. Luckily, she was able to get emergency scans and is doing all right now. At least not in such terrible pain. 18. Answering on behalf of my dead grandpa so I can spread the word further. A lump in his breast and maybe some extra fatigue, though he had other health issues. Men get breast cancer. Check your pack. Especially if you are larger or have gynecomastia, because they're easier to ignore then. He was an introverted, proud Vietnam vet and didn't want to deal with embarrassment or bad news. By the time he told me and my mom, it was golf ball sized and hard as a rock. It grew daily once we were watching, and he was dead within a month and a half. I'm grateful that he allowed us to care for him in spite of his feelings of humiliation, and grateful that he died right before it fungated. Check your chests. 19. My wife complained of seeing shapes and different colors obscuring her vision. I thought her eyes were strained from too much work on the laptop and told her to rest. The next day it was gone, and she was watching TV in the living room when suddenly she had a full-blown seizure. It was nothing like you see on TV. I thought she was having a heart attack. When we first arrived at the hospital, they couldn't give her an MRI, just a CT scan that confirmed she had a tumor at the back of her brain. 2 days in the ICU, and several scans later they found a mass in her right lung. The prognosis given by the oncologist was 6 to 12 months. That was nearly 9 years ago. She walked out of palliative care treatment after 2 years and refused to go back from any scans or checkups. 20. My mother's tongue started swelling, and she started having trouble speaking clearly. A tongue biopsy found nothing, and she didn't get answers for months. Eventually, she started having digestion issues and went to the ER a couple times. The last time she went to the ER, she also was faint and her heart was racing. After weeks in the ICU and more testing involving a bone marrow biopsy, she was diagnosed with stage 3 multiple myeloma. She had been trying to tell her doctor that something was wrong for months. 21. My dad's voice became hoarse, as if you're sick, and I pushed him to get checked out. We thought it was dryness from the winter initially. Didn't expect the vocal cord cancer diagnosis. He's totally fine now after radiation, cancer-free for 6 months. 22. Unexplained back pain that persisted for months and could not be tied to any particular injury or problem. Then weight loss. Had non-Hodgkin lymphoma at 25. I was a new mom, so always tired and holding a baby all the time and hardly sleeping, so I just figured the pain was normal. My new rule is to go to the doctor if a symptom lasts more than 2 weeks. That works for pretty much every kind of problem. Most minor injuries and illnesses will show improvement by 2 weeks. Cancer doesn't. 23. Mole on my leg kept growing. It was during the height of COVID, so it took forever to get into a dermatologist. Got diagnosed with stage 3 melanoma. Had surgery to remove the mole, but it got into my lymph nodes, so I've been taking treatment meds since then. This past December, I had a seizure. Turns out it spread to my brain, so had a craniotomy followed by radiation. Went back to work in March for a couple weeks only to have headaches, vomiting and seizing, and another craniotomy in the same spot. I turned 40 in a couple days. It's been a hell of a year. 24. My then 6-year-old was diagnosed with cancer last September. The symptom that led to his diagnosis was persistent pain at his RNE. His PCP ignored my request for imaging, X-ray. We took him to an orthopedic specialist. The look on his face after he saw the X-ray immediately told us something was wrong. What was found was a tumor at his RNE and a large mass in his abdomen. The good news is he is better now. It turned that my son drew one of the best possible hands from a terrible, shitty deck of cards. 25. I had a stone-hard testicle. That was a pretty obvious sign something was not right. Cold sweat smile. Luckily, it was stage 1 and I got surgery a couple weeks later. That was now 5 years ago. No other treatment necessary. Guys, check your balls.